Hi everyone, welcome to Whisper of the Oracle. I'm your host, Juha. This will be a quick video where I talk about, in my view, the best card in Part the Mistveil. So what is the best card in the set? Let's have a look. Is it Meridian Pathway? It could be. It's pretty sick. It's pretty broken that you can play cards like Shimmers of Silver. You can play cards like Haze Bending as an instant when you're activating this with Chi. This was definitely in my consideration. Plus it looks awesome. It could also be Traverse the Universe. It's probably the best art in the set for sure. It has a very, very similar rate to Balance of Justice, which of course a lot of decks are running, but it's not dependent on your opponent's deck. It's only dependent on the fact that you've transcended at least once, pitch that Chi back into your deck so that you can go and get it. It's basically block 2, get a full card. And in this case, the card is not a random card. It's the card that activates your hero power. It's the card that activates some of the other equipment unless you're an assassin. If you're an assassin, then you're a little bit out of luck because you have to probably fill this slot with the other hat. Fantastic card, not the best card. It could be Restless Coalescence. This just has sick value. You can play Restless Coalescence after attacking with all of your other auras. Then you can bring all the +1 counters to this one and then attack with this one. Super good, and then you can of course continue getting value out of it by creating Spectral Shield tokens later on. And it's just a yellow 0-for-2 instant ward. So it's basically, at its base, it's already pretty good value. It could be these ninja cards. I think they're fantastic. Both of them have very, very high upside. Chase the Tail is probably slightly easier to proc, but then Tooth and Claw has insane upside as a 0-for-5 go again that draws a card. But it's neither of these cards. It could be just a Nick. That's a 0-for-5 with upside. Very, very conditional, of course. You have to put it on a 1 attack. And, one base attack stealth card if you want both effects. But when you do, which is pretty much how you're using this card, it turns your blues into reds, basically. Really, really great card. Not the best card. It could be Visit Goldmane Estate. I'm not a Victor player. I don't know if this card is good, but I've been told that it's insane. If you get to create Might tokens, that's where it gets, really gets going. We have Shadow Realm Horror. Insanely strong card, and it's going to lead to very interesting deck building and graveyard manipulation decisions with Levia. I still don't think it's the best card. The best card of Part the Mistveil is Bloodrush Bellow. I mean, Art of War. I mean, Levels of Enlightenment, of course, because these three are the same card. Before we get to why these three are the same card, let's talk a little bit about the base case of Levels of Enlightenment. If you're just pitching 1 blue to play this, maybe you've had some other use for the 2 other resources. You pitched 1 blue during the turn. This is a red card. It's a 1-for-3 draw card. Not fantastic, but something you could expect from a red card. It's a 1-for-5 that blocks 3. Definitely something you could expect from a red card, so that's a critical strike. Or it's a 1-for-3 go again, which by the way blocks 3, so it's better than most commons and rares that you would find in limited sets at red, but it's a blue. It does all of these things, but it's a blue. So it's immensely flexible, even in its base form, while being blue and a block 3. So it might be the most flexible card printed so far. And that's just the base case. Let's consider a slightly more advanced case. You hit with Beckoning Mistblade, they take it, and then you play Levels of Enlightenment. Now it's, combining these 2 effects. It's a 3-cost 5 attack, draw a card, go again. Or it's a 3-cost 7 attack, go again, which is not something you're usually getting out of your cards. You need to jump through a lot of hoops to get a 3-cost 7 go again. Basically, you need to be playing Rouse the Ancients in a Guardian deck that's been built to make sure that you hit those 13 power. So already this very, very simple combo that doesn't require drawing 2 cards, it requires drawing 1 card and a blue, is very, very powerful. And do keep in mind that I'm talking about this from a new perspective. I've mostly been testing new so far, so I'm not sure if Levels of Enlightenment is as good in the other heroes. And let's then talk about the upside case. Because you're an assassin, you're playing contract cards. At least 2 of them, so every deck is for sure going to have Surgical Extraction and Leave No Witnesses. You might be playing Plunder the Poor, you might be playing Eradicate. Some decks might even be playing Annihilate the Armed. Depends on your taste a little bit. But you'll be creating some silver, and of course the new stealth cards are making silver generation even a little bit easier. And once you have silver, let's say you've generated 2 silver, you pitch a blue, you're in the end game, right? You pitch a blue, draw a card, you pitch a blue, draw a card, you pitch a blue, you play Levels of Enlightenment. Suddenly you're looking at 1 resource, 5 attack, draw a card, go again. And now you're asking, what does that have anything to do with Bloodrush Bellow or Art of War, which are pumping my other attacks? This is a completely different thing. That's correct. But essentially, at the core of it, numbers-wise, math-wise, it is giving you the same thing. Bloodrush Bellow costs you 1 resource and 2 cards. So Bloodrush Bellow as well as the card you discard. And it gives you 2 cards and usually 4 to 6 attack if you're playing KO. Most of you are probably playing KO. So I'm just going to use the KO example. Of course, in Rhinar or in the Levaya, you can sometimes get 8 attack out of it. But more often than not, it's 4 to 6 attack and 2 cards, or 1 resource and 2 cards. Art of War is a very similar card. And this is the kind of most common case where you use it, which is probably in Ninja. You're spending 1 resource and 2 cards to gain 2 cards back, as well as usually 3 to 6 attack, depending on how many attacks you have. This is now assuming you're using the +1/+1 mode and not the go again mode. The go again mode is a different beast to evaluate altogether. So it's very, very similar to Bloodrush Bellow. 1 resource, 2 cards, get those cards back and get some attack. You're basically net spending 1 resource to get a bunch of attack value, which is fantastic because you usually need to spend a whole card on top to get that attack value. Well, if you've powered up Levels of Enlightenment to the max, you're spending 1 resource and 1 card, namely the Levels of Enlightenment, to get back 1 card and 5 attack. And this starts to sound very, very familiar. The difference is that you take less risk. Your turn is less reliant on that card being perfect. Whereas with Bloodrush Bellow, with Art of War, you can sometimes draw very clunky combinations of cards. Maybe you just draw reds with your Bloodrush Bellow. Maybe you don't draw attacks with your Art of War, but instead you start drawing non-attacks out of your deck, even though you run very few. It starts to get pretty awkward. With Levels of Enlightenment, the biggest issue I've faced is that maybe I've had to hold on to a D-React, and then I draw another D-React, and then I'm in a pretty dumb spot at that point. But other than that, if you've been able to craft your hand well, you can usually get this value out of it. And that's why, in my mind, Levels of Enlightenment is the best card in the set. It's getting the same value as these absolutely legendary, fantastic cards that are getting play everywhere are getting you. Levels of Enlightenment equals Bloodrush Bellow. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked it. Here's another video for you to watch. Please subscribe. It's always super appreciated. Until next time, stay curious, folks.